Dude, tell me how good are you feeling after this event?
I am electrified. One, it's another early card, which means it's 6 p.m. my time, 7 p.m. your time. We're going to be done with this thing, and you're going to be able to put your kids to bed, and like I'll be just in time, to have lunch. It's amazing. And then on top of that, what a night of fights. Like from the top down, and the top fight on this card, we'll talk about it in a minute, but in any other month, it'd be a short list for fight of the year. I think that might still be sewn up. But
absolutely.
Even from the bottom of the card, like the lower stakes fights, they at least delivered violence.
Yeah. So I'll say this. So there's a couple things you mentioned. You said there's early card right away. Early card. I know you kind of work third shift hours, so early cards don't work out for you. But for everybody else, we're really excited about early cards. I mean, even Europe right now. Most of Europe, it's about midnight, maybe a little bit, depending on where you are. You could be 1 o'clock. You could be Bass. I don't know what Bass is from. Bass is saying 4 p.m., so West Coast. So everyone is happy. Even Europeans are happy right now. I don't know about Australia. Maybe it's like 7 a.m. or something like that. I'm not really sure, but everybody has somewhat had a decent time to watch this, so that always good. One thing I did when we did the previews, I didn't have the greatest night. I only went 6-5 in my picks. I know we had very similar picks. I don't know what your record was.
I went 4-7. I had an absolute dog shit night of picks, but I nailed this one, so I'm happy to talk about it. We can breeze over some of the early shit that I got totally wrong.
Okay, so we'll get to the main event in a second. What I want to say is I went 5-4, but worse than going 5-4 is, I don't know if you remember the preview show, I picked a bunch of decisions. I said, this guy wins by that decision. I wanted to stretch the decisions. So there's some fights I got the winner right, but boy, did I get the outcome wrong, because we had, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 I don't know what the total is, but we had about 9 stoppages. We had, Let's do this. Let's do it completely backwards than what we normally do. And shout out to all the people who are in the chat. Our listener of the week, my listener of the week last week,
Mbaye was first in, front and center.
Mbaye. Yep. Of course, the legendary Bass is here. He says, get hyped. We got, who else we got? Lestine Wilkins saying the card was crazy. Great main event, massive finishes. I love it. I apologize if I said your name wrong. But yeah, that's where we're going with it. This is great. This is what we normally do. Normally, we talk about the main event. We start top to bottom. Somewhere someone says, hey, the awards, the performance bonuses, all that are out there. And then we like to guess, say, if we were running the UFC, what would be our performance bonuses? And then we kind of do some fun stuff at the end. I think giving out performance bonuses would be one of the hardest nights in history. I'm assuming it hasn't been announced yet. So I say we do it right from the top. What if we make our picks of what we would give performance bonuses? We got everyone in the chat to do the same.
The bonuses are out.
Oh, the bonuses are out. So that's so much for that. My whole big plan was ruined. Let's do this. We do the honor system. If you haven't looked at the bonuses, tell us what your bonuses is. So Ben has seen it, so he'll tell us what they are. But people in the chat, I'll read if you give out what you think your bonuses were. This is really tough. Ben, was there a fight of the night?
There was a fight of the night.
And 2 performance bonuses.
That's correct.
Okay. The fight of the night was the main event. Don't tell me yet until we get some other people can put out their answers. And I know obviously there's a little bit of a tape delay by the time I say it and it goes out to them. I'm going to say a bonus for Lima. And I'm going to go, man, the UFC loves knockouts. So it's probably like K.S. Williams, a Song, a Woodson. But I'm actually going to say, to me, one of the slickest exchanges was Rafael's finish of Mark Diakese. That's way down on the card, but that's what I'm going to go with. So my picks are going to be Lima knocking out Ben Rothwell, Alves getting the slick guillotine, and then the main event. Mbaye throws out Song Yadong. Is a performance bonus fight of the night. Max Yair. She throws out Alves. So we're very similar to picks. Bass throws out main event, fight of the night. Song, Woodson, and Chaos. And Bass is cheating. He throws out 3 performance bonuses. But that's all right. We'll let him cheat. Anybody else? We'll see. Give it another second. Joshua Lazar jumped in. Josh, tell us what your performance bonuses of the night are. We're doing it different, Josh. We're doing the performance bonuses first. Don't look. Don't see what they were. There was a fight of the night. There was 2 performance bonuses. Josh, we'll wait for Josh to get his picks in, and then we'll have Ben tell us, and then we'll do all the fun stuff. We'll break down the entire card. So we'll wait for Josh, and then. This is tough. I mean, how many stoppages did we have? 9.
We had 9 finishes, 8 knockouts, ties the UFC record.
We have a tie UFC record, and there was only 11 fights on this card. This wasn't one of these 14, 15 fight cards. So that's even more impressive. We had 11 fights. We had 9 stoppages. We had 8 knockouts. And then on top of that, one of the fights that wasn't a stoppage is a candidate, not going to win fight of the year, but a candidate fight of the year between Max Holloway and Yaya Rodriguez. So, okay. I'm not going to wait anymore. Ben,
okay.
Let us know what are the awards.
Fight of the night, Max Holloway versus Yair Rodriguez, both of whom went to the hospital, so they'll have to send him those checks, courtesy of the hospital. Performances of the night, Chaos Williams and Andrea Lee.
Wow, really? So I didn't have any. I'm okay, but I'm okay with it. It's just one of those ones. There was so many great performances. How do you pick? I mean, I think it got say what you want about Ben Rothwell. Knocking out Ben Rothwell is still an accomplishment. Yeah, he's not a top contender, but he's still a guy that'd be tough to stop. I said Josh that could get his picks in. He just missed, but he put Alves and Rodriguez, and then he went main event as a fight tonight. So okay. Lee Mabe saying Spencer Verletzen going to the Hall of Fame. So the 2 fights that didn't go to, they didn't get a stoppage was the main event, and then Courtney Casey versus Joshua. That was the one fight. Okay. So let's get into the main event. We had Max Blex Holloway versus Yair Rodriguez. Max Holloway won a unanimous decision. I know. I saw most scorecards were either 49-46 Holloway. Some had 48-47. I scored at 49-46. I gave Holloway rounds 2 through 5. I gave Rodriguez the first round, which is kind of how we said it would happen. Ben, how did you score the fight?
I scored at 49-46. I gave Rodriguez the first round. I gave Holloway the second round, and then the rest of them.
Yeah, I think that.
Yeah.
So
I'm not mad at 48-47. But it felt more lopsided than a 48-47 fight.
Yeah,
if that makes any sense.
I can see the 48-47 because of the first 2 rounds. Like I thought you could make an argument for Yair winning the second round too, but 3 through 5 was all Max Holloway. So when I think about the greatness of Max Holloway, and I tell my children when they grow up about Max Holloway when he retires, I think going into tonight, I think my comment would always talk about his pace, his output, and obviously that'll be brought up. But after tonight, I think it might be his mental calmness, I should say, because everything was going wrong in the first round. I mean, Yaya Rodriguez was piecing up his legs, taking it out, and you never seen any worry, any panic, anything on Max Holloway's face, and he just did what he does.
No. He has poise. When 2 of your first 3 or 4 UFC fights and you're 19 or 20 years old are Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor, you've seen it all.
That's a good point.
What is going to take this man out of his out of his kind of headspace? What could you possibly do to this man he can be beaten. He's lost fights.
Of course.
But it's never because he ran out of ideas or got flustered. Just somebody was better than him on the night. That was not the case tonight. What impressed me about him is, I knew in the back of my head, yeah, he's good on the ground, but after you go a while and you see him just do his Hawaiian kickboxer death machine thing, you forget. Because it's not just that he has a crushingly heavy top game and he's really slick at positional advances. It's how seamless it is. As soon as this thing hit the ground, his instant back take on Rodriguez, punching him hard as he steps over to mount. It's just...
Yeah.
It's one of those things. It's someone that you bring up a lot. It's like Valentina Shevchenko. You forget until it hits the ground
That's
how
right.
good she is down
That's
there. You're
right.
like, is she a better grappler than she is a striker?
That's right.
And
It's
I'm not
Glover
saying
Teixeira.
that about Max Holloway. Yeah, about Glover Teixeira.
For a long time,
you
he
know,
was considered a boxer. He was the big puncher. You know, the way he beats John Jones is he's the first guy John Jones has faced that has that one punch knockout power. And it's like, no, he's a wizard on the ground. I'm glad there's a lot of points that you brought up. One is Max Holloway has a unbelievable underrated ground game. I mean, think of the third round. I thought he had the head and arm triangle. Like when he looked at it when they were near the cage, and I think maybe the cage is what saved Yair, because the cage was stopping Holloway from kind of like what they call in wrestling teeing off, where you kind of get your weight, so you almost make a T. And obviously with a head and arm triangle, you can't do that as well. But that cage was stopping Holloway from getting a better angle. One thing Bass brought up was his durability. That also, Max Holloway, besides the mental toughness, his leg is getting brutalized, and he's still stepping in the pocket. He's handling it. He's not falling down. He's making it as much of a boxing match as he possibly could instead of a kickboxing. And then just his pure toughness. Now, while we talk about the toughness of Max Holloway, let's not people have questioned Yair Rodriguez's toughness, which is, to me, now we've had 2 5-round fights where he's been in an absolute war. Like, that narrative has to go away. Now, obviously, the narrative is everybody who's in the UFC is obviously tough. You're an elite athlete who's fighting the best who's on the planet. But there's different. There's different guys who, like, there's UFC toughness. Your MMA tough, the highest guy suffers. To me, Yair Rodriguez has to be in that category now.
It was wonderful just to have Yair Rodriguez back in the octagon. It had been 2 years. I talked on the preview about how in that absence, it just feels like the ridiculous narratives kind of festered about him. Like, you know, the whole Dana White, well, he just doesn't want to fight that bad, you know, or implying that he's scared. People forgetting how good he was. And I said on the preview, it may be a tall ask for him to come back after 2 years and beat Max Holloway, but it would be a win for him if he just reminds everybody
That's right.
why he was such a sensation in the first place.
That's right.
Why the UFC was so invested in him for their march into Mexico. Just, he's so fast. The speed and power on his kicks is unbelievable. The untelegraphed high kick. Like, the dexterity in his legs, there are only a few guys in the UFC that have that kind of dexterity where he'll throw a hard low kick, then just rechamber it and immediately throw an untelegraphed high kick. I'm thinking like Israel Adesanya, Giga Chikadze, and I'm running out of names.
Alex Pereira.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Welcome to the UFC, Alex Pereira.
Yeah.
Where,
Sorry.
like, your punch.
Yeah, one fight.
Your punches are actually the thing I'm most scared of. But
yeah,
he's one of the most explosive athletes in the sport, and it's all tilted towards offense, like to a fault. Like where he's stuck on his back and throwing elbows like from the bottom, you know, just still trying to throw his no look elbow. He tried to throw that no look
like
elbow
5
3 times.
Imagine I think he might have hit Max with one of them too. It just shows Max insane toughness. This last time he landed that, the Korean Zombie was laying face down on the canvas. Josh pointed out, he said that Yaya won about probably 3 million fans tonight. You mentioned that it's him just being back in the cage, and I understand why he doesn't have as huge of a fan base, and one of it is because of inactivity. Where have you been? It's kind of when Khabib first came to the UFC, he had this, he came in, he was undefeated, he was winning fights, and then he was so inactive, he was injured, and you just kind of forgot about him. And then all of a sudden they'd book him in a fight, and you'd be like, oh yeah, that guy's really good. Like, and you kind of forget about him. That's kind of what happened to Yair Rodriguez. You also had the whatever nonsense was going on in the UFC. We still didn't have like the full story where he was cut, then he was brought back. Then you had all the fights with Magomed Sharipov there that never happened, and all this stuff. But when he steps in the cage, how can you not be a fan of this guy? He is so entertaining, as you mentioned. He's like the good version of Michel Pereira. He's what Michel Pereira wants to be.
Yes.
And then we saw like how skilled he is. That you win rounds against Max Holloway, even though he lost and he lost convincingly, he had moments, and he had good moments.
And as everybody's pointing out, he broke his foot or appeared to hurt his foot badly partway through the fight. And so he had to kind of change tactics on the go. And even without the weapon that had kind of won him at least the first round, if not, 2 rounds, he still managed to find ways to throw effective offense.
Yeah. And, this guy, like, I feel better about him if he fought to beat the fight that they went. Like, I feel better about him now than, not saying I'd pick him, but if that fight actually happens, I feel better about him. And you mentioned, like, if he did break his foot, that is such a huge weapon of his, Let's do this. What do you want to do next with Yair Rodriguez? And then we'll go over to Max Holloway because we have a lot more to talk about.
I don't care what they're ranked. I just want to see him fight Brian Ortega now.
Really?
Yair Rodriguez versus Brian Ortega is the greatest fight in the universe. I want that. It probably doesn't make sense from a ranking standpoint. What he really should get is, if he's going to be on the shelf for a while with a broken foot, like Chikadze and Cater are fighting in January. Yeah. Either of those guys would be a good next step for Rodriguez.
Yeah. So before I give him my pick, I didn't go with that pick, and I understand where you're going. They're both coming off high level losses, and it seems like the Zabit fight has just fallen apart, and who knows if we'll ever see Zabit again. God, that'd be a tragedy if we don't. Yair Rodriguez, I'll say this, in this fight against Max Holloway, he did everything he could to win this fight. And then you say, it sounds like people are saying that he, broke his foot and whatnot. What happens with him is he's throwing those leg kicks and he's trying to hurt Max with power shots and the body kicks. There's only so much he could possibly do. And the problem with loading up and landing power shots, obviously you want to do damage to Max Holloway. That's Yair's game. Yair is so explosive. That's really hard to sustain over 25 minutes. But Max is still going to be putting output. And if one point, I don't know, I think it was going into the second or maybe going to the third where his corner said, turn it down, 50% power. Go from 70 down to 50. Mm-hmm. And so he's still going to get his output. He's still going to hit hard. And while you're trying to land one big power shot, he's going to answer. And he was answering with some big combinations. And he just kept building and building. Another example of Max Holloway's incredible building. So I'm going a little further down than you, and this guy's out of Yair Rodriguez's range right now. I kind of look at the rankings and try to figure out. This is how I kind of do my matchmaking. I go, okay, top 5 guy. I see somewhere around the top 5, or it's top 10, or depending on who they are. And then I kind of look at that range and then pick who I like best, or who's not booked, this and that. And then sometimes I go a little further down. If everything's not matched up, it's not a matchup I like. I was looking at guys like Arnold Allen. And then as I'm looking down the list, I see Edson Barbosa. And I go, could you imagine Edson Barbosa and Yair Rodriguez for 25 minutes on a fight night main event? That's the fight I'm doing. If we get back to traveling, we can get to Mexico. In Mexico, Edson Barbosa, Yair Rodriguez main event. That's what I'm doing.
I like that just fine. It's a sensational fight. And, I mean, honestly, if Yair Rodriguez had won this fight, they would have been pushing him directly into the title picture. They need a new face. But now that that's not going to happen, he can fight anyone ranked from 5 to 15, and as long as it's an action fight and it keeps Rodriguez active, it's a win.
Yeah, absolutely. So it goes down to one of these divisions. Like the other guys I was looking at, like some of the guys I was looking at was Arnold Allen, Shane Burgos after last week. How fun would that fight be? I was looking at Josh Emmett, and who's Emmett fighting? I said Emmett and whoever winner. I forgot who Emmett's fighting, but that range. It's just really good. So let's move on to Max Holloway.
Okay.
I want to do something, and I want to throw this out the chat. And we'll try to hopefully make this as interactive as possible. Topuria, Evelev, the winner of that one would be fun too. You just can't make a bad. You can't make a bad fight at 145. It seemed like the entire night, the narrative from the opening of the prelims, where they do the little promo of the main event, the narrative was Max Holloway, the greatest featherweight. Is he the greatest featherweight? Is he not? Blah blah blah. I want people to make their argument. Who is the greatest featherweight of all time? Me and Ben have not discussed this. I don't know what Ben's answer. I'm kind of know Ben's personality, so I think what he's going to say, but I figure this is making it a thing because it has to be addressed. Ben, is Max Holloway the greatest featherweight of all time? If not, who is? And tell me why. Give me your argument.
I do think it's Holloway.
Wow.
Everything in me wants to say that it's Jose Aldo, but the fact that Holloway has 2 stoppage wins over him, really in their respective primes. I mean, if Aldo wins those fights, he stays at featherweight. Like
Sure.
He went down to bantamweight because Holloway sent him there.
Josh, I love Josh. Josh throws out AJ McKee. Maybe in the future. That would be Scott Coker's answer. I'm going to say something very controversial. I don't know if Max Holloway is the greatest featherweight of all time. I don't even know if he's the second greatest. I could be convinced with any of the 3 options, but I'm going with Jose Aldo. And I'm going to disagree with you. I don't think Aldo was at his prime anymore. I think Aldo was so great, and he's been so great for so long, that when he's past his prime, it's still really freaking good. It's like Fedor right now. Like, Fedor's obviously not prime Fedor, but he's still pretty good that he's competitive enough that he's top 15 heavyweight still today. That's what I feel about Jose Aldo. Like if Jose Aldo went back up to 145, he'd probably still be top 15. But I think he's past his prime. The reason why I went with Jose Aldo, I look at their records in the UFC. One's 19-6, the other one's 12-6. So give the edge to Holloway there. You add WEC because I think that's kind of fair. We're a big part of Jose Aldo's. It's 20-6 compared to 19-6. So the records are pretty close. The only difference is 3 title defenses versus 9 title defenses. That stands out. Stands out huge. It's still 9 title defenses. Now, I know your argument is Max Holloway has the head-to-head, which I was kind of hoping you'd say if you went with Max Holloway. And that's why I said Max Holloway might not be number 2. One's 19-6 with 3 title defenses, right? Max Holloway. Alex Volkanovski is 10-0 with 2 title defenses and 2 head-to-head wins over Max Holloway.
They 2 close ones.
Sure. First one I don't think was that close.
Yeah, I mean the first one was decisive. The thing about Aldo's title reign is the division was not in 2012 what it was in 2017 or what
Agreed.
It is in
Very fair point. That's a very good point.
His UFC featherweight run, where he's like whooping Frankie Edgar, is much more impressive than his WEC run.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's definitely. But there was Mike Thomas Brown. There was Uriah Faber. I mean, there was some good guys still there. But overall, your point, I agree. That's fair. I just want to read. Let me get to what some people are saying in the chat, saying who they threw out there. Guys, they're chatting up real good, so I'm trying to scroll to see. Let's see. I apologize. So, guys, just one word. Tell us who your GOAT is. Bass goes with Aldo. Mary said my question's not fair. That's what I'm just trying to get some controversy going, trying to get some debate going. Josh goes with Volkanovski as the one. What I love about this, Mabe goes with Aldo. What I love about this is when you go through the divisions and we say, oh, who's the greatest heavyweight? There's always like kind of a guy who stands out. Right now, featherweight's probably the closest one. That's why I wanted to bring it up. And it's also seems like one that they debate more than anything. I think last week when they were bringing up Kamaru Usman, I think most people still say, hey, Usman's gaining ground on Georges St. Pierre, but most people still put Georges St. Pierre number 1. I think you get 30 MMA fans, you stick them in a bar and say who's the greatest featherweight. I think 10 is saying Aldo, I think 10 is saying Holloway, and I think 10 is saying Volkanovski.
Yeah, it's definitely the closest one.
I mean, just in the chat right here, we got people taking Volkanovski. We got people taking Aldo. Ben obviously is going with Max. Devo asked a very fair question that you kind of went with, saying, how would a Prime Max do against all of Aldo's competitors? I think a Prime Max probably does exactly what Jose Aldo does in dominance. That's fair. Mm-hmm. You know, it's kind of a basketball debate. How would a Prime LeBron James do in Michael Jordan's era? LeBron James would dominate. That's what he would do. How would a Prime Kobe Bryant do? Kobe Bryant would dominate. It's the elite. I think the question is, how would a Prime Jose Aldo do right now? That's more fair. And a Prime Jose Aldo versus a Prime Alex Volkanovski, that would be fun. Josh says, nobody says Patricio Pitbull, but Scott Coker probably does. So what do we do next with Max Holloway? He's fought for the title twice. He's had 2 dominant main event wins over Calvin Kattar, which one of the most biggest beatdowns in history, and then not a huge beatdown, but still a dominant victory today against Yaya. I shouldn't say huge. I should say a historic. He didn't have a historic beatdown of Yaya Rodriguez, but still one-sided. Does Max Holloway next fight for the title, Ben?
It's either that or have him fight like the thing is that you could have him fight like Korean Zombie, but I think he put Zombie through the meat grinder, and then he swatted away another guy from getting into title contention. Like, I guess you either give him a third fight with Volkanovski and say, dude, if you lose, you got to move up to lightweight because you're never getting another title shot as long as he's there. Yeah, I like that. That's all I can think of.
Yeah. So if you're running the UFC, you're giving Holloway the next title shot.
Volkanovski, Boz points out, Volkanovski says he wants Max next.
Yeah, which to me, which kind of kills my next point, but it would have been better if he didn't tweet that. Yeah, I think you have to give Max Holloway the next title shot simply from the fact that this is what happens when a guy who's 0-2 against a champion keeps knocking out top contenders. And it's a little bit of, Volkanovski fought Ortega, but Korean Zombie's lost. This guy's lost. That guy's lost. Like, everybody else is lost, and Holloway just keeps winning. Bass throws out Conor. Yeah, Conor's obviously the fight to always make for anybody who knows when he returns. I know he's talking about coming back early next year. There's a long line of guys. Michael Chandler throws his name in there. Obviously, you still have the trilogy fight with Nick Diaz. I mean, there's all kinds of guys. I mean, I saw Petr Yan talking trash to Conor McGregor. What if, and now this kind of kills with my question I want to ask, but if I'm the champion and I'm Alex Volkanovski and I got 2 wins over Max Holloway, why am I even taking the fight? I'm saying I'm 2-0. Why am I fighting this guy again? I want to fight somebody else.
I can't speak to why, but Volkanovski strikes me as someone who is concerned with his own greatness and his own legacy and his own resume. So if Max Holloway is the best guy out there, I don't think he cares if he's beaten him 8 times.
Yeah.
The problem to me is if they fight a third time and Holloway wins, we're getting an immediate rematch.
Yeah, so we're doing a 4th fight.
These guys are going to end up fighting each other like the first people to fight each other 5 times in
the
UFC.
That's what I think Bass predicted that be 5 times. Yeah, what if? Yeah. That's why Alex Volkanovski is the champion, because he doesn't have my character. Because if I'm up 2-0 against somebody and there's a debate on who's the best, I might give him the chance to get a win over me. If there's a debate, I go, what do you mean there's a debate? I beat the guy twice already. Like, I would never give him the chance, the opportunity to earn it back. I would, if Alex Volkanovski had a Floyd Mayweather in him, where and some people would say John Jones. I don't know if this is true, but you try to find somebody that's on the rise and fight them now. Someone who hasn't reached their peak, maybe a Jakasi or something like that, and you kind of call for that fight. And try to fight the guy before he's reached his peak. Because, the question about Jakasi obviously still is ground game. This is your best chance of getting him than a year from now. That's Absolutely. The route I would do. If I'm Alex Volkanovski, I'm going a route that way. I'm fighting other guys. I'm entertaining the Henry Cejudo. Henry Cejudo calling me out. I'm calling him back out too. Every interview I'm doing, I'm calling Henry Cejudo. I'm calling Chicago. I'm trying to get anybody but Max Holloway.
Yeah, I mean, his head just works a different way.
Josh is saying best of 7. Yeah, they might as well do a best of 7. Like it's 2-0 Volkanovski, so now we got to go to like Hawaii, and the next 2 fights are in Hawaii, kind of do like home field advantage kind of thing, and then the game 5 they got to go to Australia and stuff. I thought we'd have more to talk about, but it seems it's Volkanovski Holloway. Let me ask you this: the 2 performances that Max Holloway had recently, do you feel more confident in Max Holloway moving forward against Volkanovski, or?
I think it's another razor close fight.
Yeah, me too. And I think the narrative that Holloway beat Volkanovski, I think that's greatly exaggerated. I'm not saying that he couldn't have, but like people would just make it seem like it was a robbery or something like that. Like I scored it for Volkanovski the second fight.
Yeah, same, but that noise is out there, and honestly, that might be part of what's making Volkanovski ask for this.
Yeah, that's true. That's probably is because that's why he's the best guy in the world, because of that attitude, the willingness to always fight top guys, the willingness to push yourself. I'd still be calling for, I don't know, somebody else. Who's the one guy that beat Alex Volkanovski? Dig that guy up. Like who was the guy who beat him 17 fights ago or whatever it is? Co-main event, Ben Rothwell taking on Marco Sajiro de Lima. De Lima knocks out Ben Rothwell in the first round. Who had a worse night? Who had a worse fight? This fight. Who had a worse performance in this fight? Did Ben Rothwell have a worse performance and he got knocked down in about 30 seconds? Or did Herb Dean have a worse performance?
This one was a bad one for Herb.
Because
when De Lima is looking up at you like, dude, you already stopped this fight. Why am I sitting on this guy's chest about to keep punching him?
If De Lima doesn't look up, I'm going to say this. If De Lima doesn't look up at him and just keeps punching, the fight just keeps going on.
Yeah. No,
he got called out and he's like,
Dean was going to let that slide.
Yeah.
But, dude, as soon as you put your hands on the fighters, the
fight's
stops.
over. Yeah, Devo saying that Herb is no longer the gold standard. I've been saying this for a long time. Herb Dean has not been good. And I know that's unfair. I really know it's unfair because I know when a guy makes a good stoppage, we never acknowledge it. It happened. There was knockouts tonight that were good stoppages. We never say, oh, the referee did a good stoppage. That's a great referee. That's what you should do. We hardly ever do it. But when they do something bad, we point it out. So Herb Dean can stop 10 fights in a row that are good, but then he makes a bad one that's only focused. I understand that.
The weird thing about Dean is, considering that after Big John, he is the OG of MMA refs. Like, he is the most senior, best known, most respected active ref. He's the guy that like gets flown all around the world to like ACA and Asian promotions just because they feel like it gives them a sense of legitimacy if they have Herb Dean reffing their fights. In light of that, the weird thing is that most of his screw-ups in the last 5 years seem to be from him losing confidence. He doesn't feel like he's in control of fights anymore. So he makes like weird, panicky decisions and then like tries to change his mind. He's a guy who's been a ref for 25 years who almost seems like a noob. It's the strangest thing. Yeah. And I do generally think he's not as bad as he gets, not as bad as the rap he gets. Yeah. But the specific ways he messes up like this, like making the correct call, or at least making the call to stop the fight and then trying to run it back, having the fighter have to call him out on it.
Yeah. Bass pointed out that Jason Herzog is probably considered the best. I agree with that. Until 5 years from now when he starts having some mistakes and we're calling him terrible. Let's actually talk about the action. Ben Rothwell, Marcus Sajiro de Lima. De Lima is known for throwing wild haymakers and connecting. He landed a wild haymaker. Ben Rothwell got stumbled about 7 times until he actually he looked like he went out on his feet and stumbled forward to like where De Lima was the one catching him, and that's when Herb Dean jumped in. Is there really anything to say other than, he got caught?
Yes. Okay. When Ben Duffy tells you that a heavyweight fight is going to suck, just tell him to shut up because he's wrong. This is twice in a row now that I've said this heavyweight fight is going to suck, and it's been wildness. So,
yeah. So Mary, we know I love Mary. Mary said Ben's performance today is the gold standard why fighters owning gyms don't pan out. I generally agree with that. there's obviously the exceptions to the rule, but generally, you kind of have to be all the way in. You got to have your own coaches. You can't be coaching other people. There's your James Krauses and this and that. But the problem with that statement, and that's just why I'm going to generally agree with Mary. The problem with that statement is 2 weeks ago, there's the complete opposite, where Glover Teixeira owns his own gym and he won the title. And again, that is I believe is the exception to the rule.
Yeah.
Ben Rothwell is not going to retire, but like he should, right?
He should retire. I was talking about this in the Sherdog Slack chat this afternoon. I'm surprised that he didn't go to Bellator 5 years ago with like just Dimitriones and Congos and other like dudes pushing 40. But yeah, he should retire. Like he's getting knocked out. He's getting hurt.
Yeah. I mean, the thing I have, if he was a top 10 still, bottom of the top 10, sure, but he's not even like, if we were rating down all the heavyweights in the world, where one of these, Sherdog, we don't do that, but there's other websites that do that. I have some issues with the way they do it. The point system and stuff doesn't really work, but if we were writing down, me and Ben and all the people here obviously are hardcore, we're all saying, all right, who's our number one? And we all argue why the number one, then we decide, then we do number two all the way down. How far down until we put him?
20, 25, I'd say. I mean, he's lost to people like Arlovsky, who are themselves kind of just on the outside looking in of that top 15 or 20. So I'd put him around 25 probably.
Yeah, I agree. Take like yesterday, Bellator. Tyrell Fortune lost. He did not look good. I would favor Tyrell Fortune over Ben Rothwell right now.
I'd favor Tyrell Fortune over Ben Rothwell too, even if he does stay at Arizona Combat Sports.
Yeah. Let's just move on.
Let's move on.
We do have to do one thing though. Bass said that we all have to apologize to Marco Sajiro de Lima. I don't know why we have to apologize, other than maybe picking against him. So, but if Bass tells us to do something, we should do that. So, I apologize, Marco Sajiro de Lima, for picking against you. I guess that's why we're apologizing. Felicia Spencer for Leah Letson. I'm going to say a statement. Tell me if you agree with me.
Yep.
Felicia Spencer didn't have a good performance, but she had a smart performance.
I'd say that's fair. I mean, she took a very sure route to victory, did not overextend herself at all, gave herself the best chance to avoid what few weapons Letson does have. Sure. I mean, what are you going to do to make yourself look that much better against Letson except do that same thing in the first round instead of the third?
Yeah, get the takedowns earlier. So the reason why I said it was a smart performance is I think she basically looked at we were cruel to we were cruel to a lot of heavyweights, Bass. We try not to be. Well, that's not true. But so Felicia Spencer looked at what she did wrong against Norma Dumont, and then she's like, oh, I didn't pressure, I didn't wrestle, I didn't get to the in close, do what I like to do best, do what I win best. I'm going to stand on the outside, use my Taekwondo background, and get out picked apart from distance as I try to be entertaining. And she goes, oh, yeah, if I be entertaining, I lose half my paycheck because I don't get a win bonus. Let me just get to the clinch. And she didn't let up for a single second. Like, it was touch gloves, and then in your face. Like, Leah Letson, like...
Letson's back was being pressed into the fence within the first 15 seconds of every round.
Yeah. And it got to the point where somehow I was extremely bored early in this fight to suddenly realizing exactly what she's doing that I became super entertained by it. Where it was like, this is such a great strategy, and seeing that she's so much... I kind of feel like, I was watching the Miami Dolphins on Thursday night beat the Ravens, and like everyone could see what the Dolphins defense doing, but the Ravens couldn't fix it. I kind of feel like this. Like everyone knew what Spencer wanted to do. Lesson just doesn't have any of the tools to stop it.
Letson had been gone for 3 years, and she wasn't that good before.
Yeah.
Like she was a raw, not that athletic prospect 3 years ago. Her one win was over a fighter so bad she couldn't even stay in the UFC at featherweight in Julia Stoliarenko. Just bad.
Yeah. Mabe doesn't like the fight. I was way more entertained than she was. He said she said two soccer moms fighting. It's funny that she said that because when I saw Felicia Spencer, like if you saw Felicia Spencer, you're not thinking like, elite athlete or professional athlete. She looks like the lady who's wants to get in shape in the gym and is taking it way too serious. Like you're the 35-year-old. You just dropped your kid off at karate, so you got an hour. So let's get this pump in. And she's the one at the she's the one at the cardio.
How did you get a black eye at Taibo?
Yeah, she's at the cardio. She's at the cardio kickboxing class, and like the 50-year-old lady holding the mitts for her, like, lady, like don't hit it so hard. Like she's that one. Yeah, Leah Letson. It is what it is. I mean, what do you do with Felicia Spencer though? Like this, I know in a matchmaking, but like, is she gonna just fight for the title after Norma Dumont? Is that just what it's gonna be?
Probably. Like you can't push her too far out of the title picture. Again, how many true featherweights are there? Meaning featherweights that can't make bantamweight. There's like 3 or 4 of them.
I just wish the UFC and Bellator would do a trade. I wish the UFC would call, Dana White would call up Scott Coker, excuse me, and go, hey, we don't like each other, we're not going to get along, but let's do a trade. At every one of Bellator's press conferences, someone's going to ask you about the UFC, and everyone's going to say, how would this champion do against UFC's champion? And Scott Coker is going to make a challenge to let's see what happens, and Dana White's always going to sidestep him. But say, hey, yeah, we're never going to do that, but this is what we're going to do. We're going to do a trade. We're going to give you every featherweight on our roster not named Amanda Nunes. We're just going to get whether they won, whether they lost, Norma Dumont, Aspen Ladd, Felicia Spencer, everybody. And you give us insert who. That's a fair trade. Like, obviously, AJ McKee is too much, but, like, let's give all these featherweights. You give us, I don't know.
Give us
Michael
who's their light heavyweight champ, the Russian guy that we want to see fight. I keep saying Valentin Moldavsky, but that's Fedor's his heavyweight protege, Vadim Nemkov. Give us Nemkov.
There you go. That's fair. Nemkov. That's fair. And who says no on that trade?
Or give back Horiguchi. There, Dev goes fishing. Give back Horiguchi.
Okay, that's fair.
Was let go from the UFC way too early. Bring him back.
Yeah. So Horiguchi. So Dana White calls up Scott Coker or vice versa. Oh, so we'll see. No. Say this, we can't say that, but we just present the trade. We present a trade. All the women featherweights on the roster for Koji Horiguchi. Which one says no? Scott Coker or Dana White? Who says no?
Dana White.
Really? I actually think Scott Coker says no. I think Horiguchi's more valuable than because don't you feel like they're going to get him anyways? Anyways, all right, moving on. But guys, it was a fun card, but there's not a lot to talk about. Like, there's not a lot of ranked fighters. I'm trying to find everything we can talk about. Miguel Bazer versus KS Williams. KS Williams has some serious power. Is he the biggest puncher in the division?
He might be. Because he does wind up and throw haymakers, but he also has that natural power where the little short shots, you can tell they hurt. The one he killed Abdul Razak Al Hassan with was this just tiny little right hook in a collision. But here, Baeza couldn't take that power. Like, I thought Baeza was basically winning the fight the whole way until the end, but even during the stretches of the fight that he was winning, Katelyn Williams put him on roller skates. Yeah. Like, every time he touched him clean. That's scary power.
You just don't stand in the pocket with KS Williams. You can't do it.
No.
Like, you have to stick and move. You got to kick him. I think Baeza had a good strategy for most of the fight. But it's got to the point where he has so much power that you got to start thinking of him as a Derek Lewis type guy where, he's not the most talented guy in the division, but you have to be perfect against him. And he's 4-1 in the UFC now with 3 knockouts, I believe, and 3 put you out dead knockouts.
Yeah, 3 dead knockouts.
Yeah.
Baeza got up and protested because he did not remember what
That's
the fuck
right.
happened to him.
That's
Like, I'm sure after he watched the tape, he was like, "Oh, I get it now." Like, I'm sure he was a little embarrassed for himself after he went back and watched the tape and saw.
Yep. Yeah. There's that time. Like the last thing he remembers was him probably landing an uppercut on Chaos Williams, and all of a sudden the referee jumping in, like, "Why are you stopping the fight? I just punched him. Why you know?" Or he remembers that Chaos hit him with a jab, and he's like, "I wasn't hurt by that." It's like, no, you were. He just doesn't remember it. What is it to make of Chaos? So I obviously I'm living the moment. I'm kind of exaggerating a little bit to make it a little entertaining, but the guy's 4-1 in the UFC, as we said, 3 dead knockouts. I mean, what's the ceiling for this guy?
Well, we're talking about welterweight. This is the division where Santiago Ponzinibbio won like 7 or 8 fights in a row and barely scraped the top 10. So the good thing for Williams is right now he's just in the pool. He's in that pool with like the Nico Prices, Randy Browns. I wouldn't wish this on him because he's a friend of mine, but well, no, he already did my friend Alex.
Yeah, so, he started. He was the first one. That's
what started this whole thing. Like that, Alex is the one who let him in the door.
In fairness to Alex, if you're Alex, you don't know better. The rest of these guys should know better. Like Miguel Bazer should know better.
Yeah, Li Jingliang is a perfect example. He's in that same, he's in that same kind of. They're ranked maybe 20 through 10, but they're much better than the 20 through 10 in any other division except for lightweight. These are really good fighters who just have a few defensive flaws, a few inconsistencies, can't string enough wins to, well, dude, just ask Leon Edwards. It takes a lot to actually get into contention at welterweight, unless you're someone like Michael Chiesa, who was already a contender in another division and moved there.
Yeah. I want to see.
Al-Hassan moved up in weight because he blew weight twice in a row and blew it by like 6 pounds.
Yeah.
Al-Hassan, he's short, but he is super, super burly. I can believe he has a hard time making 170.
If I'm the UFC, I'm seeing a guy that's very marketable. Like his whole stare down, like looking like he wants to murder your entire family. Like that works to me. Like, guys, I don't watch pro wrestling. But I do definitely I understand the pro wrestling aspect to MMA. Like there are interchangeable. Like people, we're way more related than we think we are. Like they're our cousin. Pride started because of pro wrestling. Shudo started because of pro wrestling. So there is a marketability of that. Chaos Williams has that marketability. That just on the scary. He has that like Bill Goldberg when Bill Goldberg first showed up. And didn't say anything and just beat your ass. Like, that's what he has. I'm giving him a ranked fighter. And I know it's not fair. Like, I know it's not fair. Like, there's guys who have won, more fights and closer, deserves a ranked fighter before he does. I'm sorry. Like, between his knockouts and his personality, some guys get a fast track. And I got Chaos on the fast track. There's a ceiling. I don't expect him to win the title or be top 10 or anything like that, but bottom top 15 guys, I'm having to face one of those guys next.
Yep. So and those are the people I rattled off. Your Prices, your Browns,
Oh, they're the UFC. See, I'm thinking our rankings. I always think our rankings.
Oh, our rankings.
I don't think I don't even know the UFC rank. Like I have no idea who's in the UFC rankings. But I'm thinking Ponzinibbio. I'm thinking guys like that.
Bilal Muhammad.
That's who I'm fighting.
Neil Magny.
Yeah, that's like Neil Magny is such an intelligent fighter. He'd find a way to beat Chaos Williams. But
see, I feel that same way. But Magny's loss to Lorenz Larkin is about as wrong as I've ever been about a fight, and I could totally see Chaos Williams doing that same kind of thing to him.
Yeah. All right. So Sean Brady. Leston Wilkins throws out Sean Brady. I know he's booked. But, like, Sean Brady's ceiling is so much higher than Chaos Williams. But Chaos Williams has a marketability that Sean Brady doesn't have. Or at least Sean Brady doesn't have yet. Yeah. Let's move on to Baeza real quick before we move on. Yeah. This is a guy that he has a talent. You see it. But it's 2 fights in a row that he was winning, or I don't know if people had him beating Chaos Williams, but he was doing well. and then suddenly either he gets starched or in like Ponzinibbio he was hurt and kind of never really recovered. He was on skates for the rest of the fight. What does this guy have to do?
Retool his game. I'm just he's a fairly young fighter in terms of age and in terms of miles. He has all the weapons offensively. Like except for the fact that Williams hit so much harder and Baeza couldn't take it. Baeza was outclassing him. Like the low kicks were destroying Williams. He was clearly superior on the ground, even if I thought it was a mistake to spend 3 minutes going for a succession of leg locks in the first round. Like, he has all the tools offensively, but it looks like he has trouble taking a shot. Now, granted, that's Chaos Williams and Santiago Ponzinibbio, two of the harder punchers in the division.
Sure.
But this division's full of hard punchers.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to be a top 10 fighter, that top 10 is full of guys that will knock your block off.
Absolutely. Oh, God, Mary just wrote Jeff Neal versus Chaos.
First, Jeff Neal has to survive Ponzinibbio.
Yeah.
But,
how about the loser of that fight? Because the winner probably deserves a higher ranked top 10 guy, but the loser of that fight. The loser of that fight might be dead, though. In fairness.
MV is not letting go of the fact that Matt Brown had Baeza on Queer Street in the first round of the fight.
I know.
Which I completely agree.
We bring it up every time.
Concern.
We bring it up every single time in the preview. His chin isn't now the Chaos Williams one. It is what it is. Chaos Williams can knock out a friggin' rhino, but Matt Brown cracking him and hurting him bad is an issue.
The problem isn't like Matt Brown. His highlight reel is almost unparalleled in that division. He is a knockout artist. The problem is that 40-year-old Matt Brown hit you that cleanly that many times.
That's right.
Like, he shouldn't have been able to touch Baeza.
That's right. And speaking of touching a guy and knocking him out, Song Yadong knocked out Julio Arce. This was the fight that we seemed like we were most excited other than the main event, and just from wondering what's going to happen. Song Yadong, Julio Arce is a tough test for everybody, and Song Yadong passed it with flying colors. The first round was a little boring. Both guys had a lot of respect for each other. It seemed like they really could tell. Very defensive minded for both of them. But when Arce started trying to open it up, Song Yadong just had the perfect response. He's so accurate. His right hand's really good. And that a high kick. He's fast. He's got power. He's technically sound. He's got good defense. He's beaten good guys already in the UFC. He's 23. Me and Ben question if he's really 23, but still he's fairly young. The sky's the limit for this guy. Like, I just said the ceiling of Chaos Williams, I don't see him as a top 10 guy. I'm not predicting Song Yadong to be a top 10 guy or anything like that. But I feel a lot better about him. Like, if he held the title one day, it would not shock me.
Me either. And I think his ceiling is definitely within the top 10. Well, hell, if his win over Marlon Vera had been at bantamweight instead of a short-nosed featherweight thing for both of them, I'd probably have him in my top 10 right now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, if they fought, obviously Marlon Vera got the winner over Frankie Edgar, but Song Yadong, it wouldn't take him that long. He would have knocked out Frankie Edgar in the first round. And I think he stuffs a lot of Frankie Edgar's takedowns that Vera struggled with. And he isn't as slow a starter. I'm all in on Song Yadong. I mean, he convinced me when he beat up Casey Kenny. I think Casey Kenny's good, and he beat him up for 15 minutes. What do we do with Song Yadong next?
Everything is going to shake out in that division in just a couple weeks. On December 11th, you got Munoz versus Cruz. You got Kai Kara-France versus Cody Garbrandt. You've got Holly and Paiva versus Sean O'Malley. I like him to get the winner of Paiva versus O'Malley. For one, because either way, that's a sensational fight.
Yeah.
Song Yadong versus Sean O'Malley sounds fucking brilliant.
I know. So, okay.
And if you hate O'Malley, for whatever reason, there's a good chance you might see him on the ground clutching his leg or just staring into the lights. If you like O'Malley, he might get that might be the best win of his UFC run so far.
Yeah, a lot of people are throwing out the winner of O'Malley and Paiva. So I'm gonna say something, and it's gonna sound contradicting. I'm going to make one statement why I wouldn't make the O'Malley fight, and then I'm going to make another statement which is going to sound very contradicting. I understand I'm being contradicting. Okay. Let's just for promotional sense, we'll just say Sean O'Malley wins. Okay, just for this moment. Okay, Sean O'Malley is obviously extremely marketable. He markets himself well. He's got the whole pot smoking thing, so he got the young generation. He's flashy. The way he fights, he's a marketer's dream. If I'm running and he's young. If I'm running the UFC, I'm doing the AJ McKee route. I'm slowly moving up one step, but I'm not rushing that. I don't want him to have any hiccups if he fights for the UFC. Like Sean O'Malley could be someone who could hold the UFC title one day. I know some people don't like that. I believe he's that good. I'm not predicting it, so just the record. Just like I'm not predicting Song Yadong could hold the title, but it wouldn't shock me if you like Jan Blachowicz winning the UFC title shocked me. Well, let me back up. Not that he beat Dominic Reyes, but I'm saying like years earlier. If you told me like say we're 2 years before Sean O'Malley wins the UFC title, like it wouldn't shock me. Okay. Yeah. I want if he does win the UFC title, if he fights for the UFC title, I want it to be as big of a match as possible. I want him to have the O on his record. I want him to have flashy. I want him to slowly move up to suddenly what happened. Like it was a dream for Bellator. Because if you remember with AJ McKee, there was a couple fights where AJ McKee didn't look superhuman early in his career. And then he just got better and better and better and better. And then he looks like one of the pound for pound best fighters in the world. That's what I would do with Sean O'Malley. So I also think if you're going to have O'Malley take a step up, get someone who's going to talk trash with him. That's not going to happen with Song Yadong. Give him the Brian Kelleher's. Give him that kid. Someone that would engage with him. Okay? Someone at this stare downs at, if it's an open fight of a UFC pay-per-view is going to give it back to him. Okay. I want to go back to what Devo said. Devo goes fishing. Devo says he doesn't know why Song Yadong doesn't get the same push that Weili Zhang, probably to the same sense of Jing Li. He doesn't get the same push. Why? I don't know. You get Chinese fighter. He's really talented. He's young. He should be getting the push. So you kind of said, you throw all these things out there of this matchup. They're all good. I'm going even higher. I'm going with Devo. I think he should be in a more marketable fight. I'm giving him the loser of Rob Font versus Jose Aldo.
Wow.
And I'm not making my prediction yet because I don't want to spoil, but one of those names rings a little bit better if you're trying to get somebody over. And that's why I'm saying the loser, because that's probably the guy.
Did you score the Phillips fight for Song?
I don't know. To fairness, I don't remember.
Yeah. I can't get that out of my head. Like I had him losing it. I think he lost to Kyler Phillips like 6 months ago.
Kyler Phillips is good though. Yeah. I'll say this. I remember the Marlon Vera fight. That's another fight that people had issue with. I did score it over Marlon Vera, I think. Mm-hmm. Now I'm questioning. Either I might have given it to Marlon Vera, but I just remember saying like it wasn't a robbery.
No.
Like the people think it was a robbery. It's like, no. Anyways, so I'm all in on Song Yadong, where I'm willing to have him fight Jose Aldo next. I'm like
if you just want a banger, Adrian Yanez fights next week. If he gets past Davey Grant. Woo. Yeah.
Speaking of bangers, Thiago Moises versus Joel Alvarez. Alvarez looks absolutely sensational. Alvarez stops Moises in the very first round by TKO. Islam Makhachev took him 4 rounds to beat Thiago Moises, and Joel Alvarez did it in 1 round. We should mention he missed weight, so I'll mention that. So it wasn't a perfect thing, but he just walked down. So we kept talking about Alvarez's jiu-jitsu, and it was his striking. And if you told me ahead of time who would have the advantage on the feet, I would have thought Moises, because we've seen like improvements in his striking. Yeah. Alvarez just long range shots. He threw a beautiful high kick that kept hurting him, knees inside, and when he wobbled Moises early, and he never let him off the hook. It was controlled chaos. Like he put it on him, but it was controlled. He didn't go in for the kill. He just was picking his shots, kept the pressure on. Moises never recovered. To me, it was absolute. And then those elbows and stuff. I was blown away with Joel Alvarez's performance today.
The same. I mean, and you on the previews will often talk about how much you hate fighters pillaring. Perfect example of this, because Alvarez hurt Moises badly with a couple of punches that just went right around his guard and hit him in the side of the head. Also, he has a kind of power that he was hurting Moises with stuff that even he did defend properly. Like high kicks that clattered off his guard and stunned him anyway. His power is shocking. He's blown weight twice already now in 4 fights. Like, there's a hard cap on contention if he can't get that under control. Because the UFC's never going to book you even in the title eliminator if it thinks you're going to miss weight, unless your name is Yoel Romero.
So, this is my suggestion. He looks really good. I mean, and I'm throwing up the Islam Makhachev because obviously we're looking for things to talk about, and I want people to stick around and not turn off the broadcast. I think it's unfair. It's unfair to say, oh, this guy stopped in 1 minute or 1 round, the other guy stopped in 4 rounds. That means he's better than Islam. It's different. Different fights, different things. Did the beatdown from Islam affect Moises' chin? There's a lot more to than A, B, C. But I want to say this. So he does look like this is the selling point, though. If I'm the promoter, this is what I'm pushing this all the way. I'm Dana White right now. I'm saying, oh my God, Islam just ran through Dan Hooker. We're talking about Islam fighting for the title. Habib, or maybe it's Ali, or somebody's out there tweeting at Justin Gaethje saying, you're not next, it's Islam. Well, this guy, Joel Alvarez, just did it even more impressive. So if I'm promoting, I'm pushing it all the way. I understand what you're saying about missed weight. Obviously, it's a huge issue. I think I know the solution. This guy still trains in Spain. He lives in Spain, trains in Spain, trains with God knows who. What if this guy came to America and trained with one of the top teams? He went and trained with Trevor Whitman, trained with Fight Ready, trained with whatever, insert American top team. 1, you got to get better training partners. 2, you got to better coaching. 3, you got to get guys who understand the weight cutting and goes to the PI, whatever.
Yep. Now,
I want to say this. I understand it's easy for me sitting in Rhode Island to tell some guy, hey, pack up your family, move all the way across the ocean to another country. I understand it's really easy for say. I understand these guys have lives, so I want to throw that out there. But it would help.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, totally agreed. Mbe is going in on Alvarez missing weight, not giving him any credits, hates weight bullies. And I get that entire I get that entire thing. Like, it's unprofessional, and it does affect the outcome of fights. You make the contracted weight for a reason. So I see this fight more as a glimpse into his potential.
Yeah, fair enough.
Even than actual achievements. Like, he's shown, okay, yeah, I can blow a top 15 guy out of the water once I get my shit dialed in.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but will he get his shit dialed in, or will he have to move up? We don't know. I know that
it's not like he'd be undersized at welterweight. He's a
no,
huge
absolutely
dude.
not, absolutely not. And in fairness, I'll say this: Joel Alvarez missing weight was one of them. Like, oh, that guy missed weight. Oh, Jojo missed weight. Not a big deal. Like, it doesn't ring out the same as other people, but now it does to me. Like, moving forward, now I'm excited about this guy. Now I'm really be watching make weight. So now, like, I'm at least, Friday, day before the event, I'm gonna be waiting. He's gonna be one of the guys I'm gonna be interested in him stepping on the scale.
Yep.
Speaking of someone that I'm interested in, and all right, I'm struggling with this transition. Someone who a lot of people were interested in, and I don't know if that's the case anymore. Cynthia Calvillo, wasn't that long ago, was headlining UFC's main fight nights. She got her ass handed to her by Andrea Lee tonight.
You know what? There are a couple of things that Andrea Lee does really well. If you make it a point to stop her from doing those, she struggles. One of the things she does well is kick you really hard to the body.
Yeah.
Cynthia Calvillo just ate a couple of those and didn't like it anymore. I'm happy because I think there should be more corner stoppages in MMA. Like, don't let your person just go out there and die if it's not their night. So I was happy to see that this was officially a corner stoppage, that, like, she was like, no mas. They talked and just said, we'll live to fight another day. Like, what was the point to go out there and get your like liver kicked out your butthole, by another body kick?
Yeah. So, yeah, I can't complain because I've called for corners to stop fights, and then I'd be a real hypocrite if I say, like, why would you stop them? She was getting beat. The thing is, we've seen people get beat way worse that we're calling for corner stoppages, and it doesn't happen. But maybe if we start having these happen, it'll start become more of a norm. Mm-hmm. But Andrea Lee, I would say this was the best performance of her career. Even before the UFC, it was the biggest name that she's beaten. The teep kicks, the jab, her defensive wrestling, everything was on point. Her output too. That's another thing. She put a really good pace, really good. You hope that she builds off of this. Hope this wasn't like a one night thing. Like that she's. I mean, you're talking about a girl who's marketable, good and bad for reasons. Angel Lee's memorable. Like when you see her fight, I mean, she's a tall, pretty blonde from Texas, who's calls herself KGB. I mean, you remember her.
Man, back on when she was fighting in Louisiana and Texas local shows, she used to wear like a little bikini with like hammer and sickle on it to weigh-ins. It looked like some gimmick from like 1980s pro wrestling. It was hilarious. I'm glad at least she's gotten past that part.
Like if Nikita, what was his name? Nikolai Volkov. No, Nikolai Volkov had like a sister who joined wrestling. Like that would be like what she looked like. Or no, it'd be like if somehow. Nikolai Volkov like beat up the Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth went with him, like side change or something. She started dressing, like where Sergeant Slaughter was promoting Iraq. I mean, that was one of the best performances of the night. That was the fight right before it that was right up there for one of the best performances. Shillan Woodson beat the piss out of Colin England. Yeah, to me. I was saying, Andrea Lee, this was a great performance, and I said, I hope she builds on this. Shillan Woodson's performance tonight seemed like one of those, like this is his breakout performance where he just starts building from this. His accuracy, his feints, his variety of his strikes, and then beautiful, beautiful body work. But the body work was set up which obviously finished the fight, and you know how much I love talking about body work. You like talking about body work. We love seeing body work. Something that really needs to happen more in MMA. But it was so clever how you set it up. He was throwing, I don't know if you caught this, he was throwing high kicks early, forcing England to have to keep bringing his arms up. So he had to keep keeping his high up, and it was just opening up those body shots for Shillan Woodson. He's got the physical tools, obviously the long length, but he also has the intelligence.
Mm-hmm. Yep. His boxing is really pretty. Just the way he, varies speeds, varies angles, and the fact that he is able to incorporate kicks and just get even another step ahead of his opponents, like what they're trying to do defensively. It's beautiful. Like, he's going to have problems against guys who can take him down. There's always going to be question marks over what kind of weight cut he has to get to 145. Yeah. But when he's on, he is a joy to watch.
Yeah, and he clearly is a fan of boxing. I apologize. I don't know which media member tweeted this out, but I saw a media member tweeted out. It was something like personal questions about a fighter or something like that, and it was just getting to know a fighter, and it was what's your favorite color, what's your favorite movie, what's your favorite band, stuff like that. And someone was like, what was your favorite fight? And he named a boxing match. Who's your favorite athlete? He named a boxer. Just like things like that. Yeah, he loves his boxing, and he can back it up. Really, really good performance. Before that, Ben, we apologize to Marcus Sajiro de Lima. You need to apologize to Courtney Casey for doubting that she would get over 500.
I am happy for her. Anytime you miss weight and you lose, I like that bingo card. So I apologize wholeheartedly to Courtney Casey, and wish her all the best going forward.
So we were calling for Ben Rothwell to retire. We should be calling for Courtney Casey to retire right now. You're 10-9. You got a winning record. Just end it right now, because you got to lose your next fight. So just end it. Just end it right now. Like, end with a winning record. Courtney, just do it.
This is as good as it's going to get.
I'm going to say something. Like, Courtney Casey beat the piss out of Joshua. and like Jojo took a. All right, do you remember that movie with oh God, what's his name? I don't know why I'm doing this. This is a terrible. I don't know why I'm doing this one. The guy who played Joker and he died. What's his name?
Heath Ledger.
Heath Ledger. Okay. Heath Ledger was in a movie about jousting. Did you ever see that movie?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know the name of it.
Was that A Knight's Tale? I think.
A Knight's Tale. Yes, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. A Knight's Tale. All right. I don't know if you remember this, but in the movie, the girl said, "Hey, lose to show your love for me," and he was like getting hit with the joust and getting beat up when he didn't have to. Like he could have won. Like that's what I felt like Joshua was doing. Like you're getting tagged up on the feet and get beat up. All you got to do is listen to your coach. You go for a freaking takedown. You're gonna win. Like what the hell's the matter with you?
I mean, I'm happy for Courtney Casey, but I wanted to jump straight to the cut list when we started the show an hour ago. I was screaming at my TV so hard. Like, I know, Mbe is saying I was crazy to pick Liana. She was a 2-1 underdog, and anytime a 2-1 underdog has that obvious and that plausible an avenue to victory, I call that good value. But she didn't fucking do it.
If I was...
Kill me. I hate this fight so bad.
Oh, my God. If I was John Wood... I would have lost my shit. You would have. It would have been Aspen Ladd's coach. I don't remember Aspen Ladd's coach name. It would have been that bad. I remember Matt Hughes was cornering on the. It was a heavyweight. I don't remember his name. He was pumped. Mike Whitehead. Remember Mike Whitehead? Tough too. I still remember it. He was cornering Mike Whitehead. Mike Whitehead wasn't doing what Matt Hughes was telling him to do, and he had like a sponge or something. And he in between, he threw it at him. I would have threw my sponge at him and what the fuck? Excuse my language. I'm gonna say it again. What the fuck are you doing? You get a takedown. You're gonna win. This is the Seattle Seahawks throwing it in the Super Bowl. Just give the damn ball to the running back and you win. What are you doing? You're getting punched up. You're bleeding. Your nose is all busted up. Even in the third round, she gets a takedown with 5 seconds left in the fight. You shoot for every time she shot for takedown, she took her down. Courtney Casey has the worst wrestling in the UFC ever.
Courtney Casey got bullied around by Michelle Watterson. I remember that. I was like, Jojo can do this. And
you're from Georgia. You're supposed to wrestle. You're from freaking Georgia.
Your name sounds like Georgia. You're like Liana, the devil went down to Jojo. What the hell?
I just can't. I couldn't imagine. Imagine Marab watching. Marab's watching and rooting for her and just being like. I just
even Giga Chikadze is like, I would have shot for a takedown there.
I don't get it.
She's not going to be allowed back into Georgia.
I'm glad Courtney Casey won. Good for her. She beat her up on the feet really bad. It was one of the most. Even when she got a takedown, even the commentary team, when she got a takedown at the end of the first round, I go, oh, she's going to win the fight now. She showed how easy it is to take it down and you're going to win. John Wood pulls her over and says, yeah, do this. And you see how easy to take down? Why don't you take her down? Well, then going in the third round, he's like, hey, you need a stoppage. We need to take her down and beat her up on the feet. You need to take her down as soon as the round starts. And she didn't shoot for a takedown until 4 minutes and 50 seconds into the round. It was one of the most aggravated. Let's do this. Let's pause. You want to do the cut list first.
We don't have to.
Nuana Georgia is on your cut list.
Oh, yes.
She is on my cut list, too. So, on behalf of both of us, Joshua is officially cut from the UFC, according to me and Ben. Anybody else on your cut list?
It's not going to happen, but Leah Letson.
Okay. Yeah. How about a Bellator trade? What can we trade Leah Letson just 1-for-1? Is there anything?
Maybe a nice plate of food from the craft services room.
Yeah.
We don't even need a fighter for her. Just give us some
stuff. One of those Jake Hager fighters, one of the ones from Jake Hager fights. Maybe if Aaron Pico had lost yesterday, they could have snuck him in. How about we trade Leah Letson for the girl that, what's the girl? Man, I swear to God, I forget people's name. They're not on the card. The girl who was twerking.
Oh, Valerie Laredo?
Valerie Laredo. No, not Valerie Laredo, but the girl that she beat up. We'll trade Leah Letson for her. She's got a Courtney Casey type record.
Taylor Turner. Oof.
Yeah.
Roger Huerta.
Yeah. Roger Huerta. Nice one.
Roger Huerta is the first fighter I ever interviewed for Sherdog. Always will have a special place in my heart for that reason, but probably not the UFC.
Okay. Before that, we had Mark DeCasey take on Rafael. Rafael had an incredible performance. One of the best. So everyone thinks about that Donald Cerrone punch sequence that he landed on Jake Ellenberger, maybe? Was it? Was it Rick Story? It was one of those like short wrestlers. Who was the guy? Was it Rick Story? Where Donald Cerrone landed like an 8-punch combination on him?
Yep. Yeah, it was Rick Story.
Okay, Rick Story. Okay. Sorry, Jake Ellenberger, throwing your name. Just that lower 15-ish range wrestler guy. This sequence is up there. Like power jab to flying knee to jump on a guillotine. It was such a thing of beauty.
Yep. Beautiful. I mean, Chikese helped.
Yeah, he shot for takedown because he was hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But beautiful.
On the breakdown, we talked about him attacking the head. I think this was a good call. Not that I picked DeCasey to win, but talking about like his best avenue is attacking the head. Really good win by Alves. Mark DeCasey. He's a guy that entered the UFC with a lot of hype. There's a lot of people who liked him coming in. I mean, are we ready to put him in the bus category?
I think that's fair to say.
Like he's not an easy out. Like he's gonna win fights in the UFC, but generally speaking,
he's just another guy.
He's just
and
a
he
guy.
came in with the expectations of being much more than just another guy.
Yeah. Yep. He's a card filler.
Mm-hmm.
He's at this point where you kind of almost want to use him to get somebody else over.
Yeah, completely.
And Kenny and Chukwu versus Dong Zhang.
You can't pillar.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. He was, you can't pillar. And what I loved is what Dong Zhang was doing, showing how easy to get around pillaring is you grab the hand and move the hand. And is it just kind of hiding? He's moving the hand and throwing an elbow is thing of beauty. Zhang is 4-0-1 in the UFC. He's on a 15-fight win streak. I mean, this guy's got to fight a ranked fighter next, right? And I'm going to stop picking against him.
Yeah, me too. Like, because as soon as he started doing that to Enzo Chukwu, I was like, oh, that's right. One of these guys really knows how to fight, and one of them really doesn't yet.
When you look at his record, he's 15 fight undefeated streak. He's 4-0-1 in the UFC. How the hell did this guy get a draw with Sam Alvey? Like he's beating guys way better than Sam Alvey.
He got Sam Alvey'd.
Yeah.
You know, like that's it.
Is it
the problem is, like the problem really is that Alvey arguably won the first 2 rounds, and Zhang just really put it on him in the last round. That's what gave us the weird split draw. But yeah, he just totally got snake charmed by one of the oldest, wiliest, most boring fighters in the UFC. He just got turned into a Sam Alvey fight.
Yeah, but if they fought again, right? Like Zhang would starch Alvey in the very first round, right? Like,
if they fought again a week later, he would have starched him because he would have been like, okay, I know exactly what I don't need to let happen, and if I do literally anything else, I'm going to win this fight.
Yeah. All right.
No, he needs, like, we're not matchmaking, but he needs one of those borderline, top 15 guys. Like he needs a Nikita Krylov type.
Yeah, that's perfect. That works for me. Hey, yeah. Devin Clark. I'd be a Devin Clark.
Yeah.
There you guys. We've already done the cut list. I'm sorry. We didn't have anybody else for the cut list, right? Other than
nope.
Joshua. All right. Let's do the Bulls and the Bears. The Bulls and the Bears is a stock market reference. If you haven't seen the show before, the way it works is if a stock is going up or the market's going up, it's a bull market. If it's going down, it's a bear market. We do it hockey style. So kind of like the stars of the game they do in hockey. We do it. We'll do this. You want to do the Bulls or you want to do the Bears first?
Let's do the Bears first.
Okay.
If that's okay.
No, that's fine. Are you okay with me going first?
Absolutely.
This is what I'll do. If anybody wants to throw in the chat their Bulls and the Bears, I'll read them. I'll read them out loud. My number 3 Bear is Herb Dean. This continuing to suck. This guy went from the many people considered the best referee that works the UFC. We're not talking about the random guy who works once a 5 years for the UFC when they go to Saskatchewan or something like that. I'm talking about the normal guys we see: Mark Carter, Herb Dean, Jason Herzog, those guys. I think he's the worst one of them right now. My number 2, I'm gonna go with. I'm stuck between because I got to leave one off my list. I'm gonna go with Mark Diakese. He's 5-5 in the UFC. He hasn't won a fight in over 2 years. He's the guy that a lot of people had a lot of hype in. Now he's losing on the second fight of the card. And my number 1, and it's Cynthia Calvillo. This is a girl that was not that long ago won a UFC main event. Was the girl that, crazy as it sounds, people were saying was the biggest threat to Valentina Shevchenko. She's now lost 3 fights in a row. This was the worst one of them. She's been knocked out in back-to-back fights. This obviously was a technical knockout. She was stopped on a stool, which everyone here seemed very fair. The commentating team it was very fair to them. But there's people out that's going to hold this against her forever. Cynthia Calvillo's stock has really fallen. And at her age, like, she's not some young prospect. She's
34.
Yeah. Like, top challengers days seem like that's a thing of the past. Ben, who are your Bears?
I'm with you on you said Casey, right? I'm with you on that one. I won't bother repeating that. But from the bottom, Kennedy and Chukwu. That's a second loss in the UFC. The first one, totally excusable. It's your first fight out of the Contender Series. You're taking on Paul Craig, and he does Paul Craig things to you, where you whoop his ass and then he triangles you in the last minute of the fight. That's excusable. This one showed actual problems to me, things that he's going to have to get past if he wants to take these prodigious physical tools of his and actually become a contender. So him, Miguel Baeza, kind of the same thing. This wasn't his first loss, but now we're seeing a pattern. He's too hittable, and he doesn't have the chin to make that game plan go. So still got all the offensive tools, still has all the potential in the world. He's an exciting and charismatic guy. There's star potential there if he can keep winning, but he definitely does need to go back to the drawing board and retool his game. Number 1. There's a lot.
I thought you froze for a second.
No. Thiago Moises. His opponent missed weight, but this was a bad loss to a non-contender. Like, Islam Makhachev is going to do that to a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Joel Alvarez. This might age really well if Alvarez wins his next 6 fights and he's in the title picture himself 18 months from now. But just getting mauled like that, standing, and just really, he didn't even just do anything about it. He just kind of sat there and got plunked. There are other lightweights that are going to be able to do that to him. That throws some doubt on his future as a potential title contender at lightweight.
All right, let's get to some of the listeners, as we have the best listeners. Bass throws out and Chukwu as a major beer, very close to being on a marketing streak. Josh throws out Bull. He threw his Bull out there as Yair Rodriguez. Mary throws out some bears. She threw a whole bunch. She don't follow the rules. She throws Miguel Baeza, Cynthia Calvillo, Ben Rothwell, Mark. I'm assuming that's Mark Jacasey, Colin England. Josh throws out Big Ben. Not a lot of people. Mabe throwing out Kennedy, saying why he's Zhang jabbing Kennedy up with A3. That's a good point. That's a good. Radlord doesn't like Ali Abdelaziz. Let's go to the Bulls. So the Bulls are the people who had a good night. Ben, I'll let you kick it off.
Oh, Courtney Casey might have saved her job. She gets a little shine here. Joshua handed her the fight on a silver platter, but you know what? That hasn't always been a guarantee that Courtney Casey's going to pick up that platter and take it home. So good for her. My top 2 are going to be Yair Rodriguez, because, again, I said it's a big ask to come in here after 2 years off and beat Max Holloway. Just come back and remind people why you were like becoming such an action hero 4 or 5 years ago. He did that.
Okay.
And number one, it's got to be Max. I mean, he now owns 3 of the top 5 like strikes landed on, in the UFC record books. It's ridiculous. Like, this felt like a step back from some of his like real machine maulings, and it's still one of the 5 highest strike totals landed.
Really?
In the UFC fight. Yep.
Wow. Like that. That's a standard he has been on.
Yep. He outlanded him 230 to 159.
Wow, that's insane.
And dominated the groundwork.
I wouldn't have never guessed that it was that high. That's what Max Holloway does. So my bulls. Actually, let me read some bulls for the listeners first. Devo didn't get his bear in time. He said Calvillo, Jojo are his bears. Mabe agrees with you with Yair. We got a good chat going on. What's going on with Ali Abdelaziz? Bulls. Devo throws in Alves, Max, and Yair. Lee DeLima. He's got a bunch. He doesn't follow the rules. Mabe throws out Yair again and Alves. Josh goes with Yair. Yeah. Mary throws out Max and Andrea Lee for her bulls. My bull, I don't know if anybody said this, but my number 3 bull, Song Yadong. I mean, you knock out a guy of Julio Arce, that's a great win. I'm talking about him having a huge step up in competition. China's MMA really needed this after last week, or actually last 2 weekends. China last 2 weekends, China lost back to back. The other 2 stars lost. Song Yadong may be becoming the face of Chinese MMA. So my number 2, Chaos Williams. He's 4-1. Starch is a guy. I'm calling for him to fight a ranked fighter. So Chaos Williams, my number 2. And my number 1, I'm going to go with techniques. There was a lot of good techniques. 2 that really stood out to me. So I'm kind of putting these together. Is body work and elbows. I mean, we talking about elbows. We saw Felicia Spencer do a lot of elbows tonight. Dongwoo Jung finished with elbows. Song Yadong finished with elbows. Go over to body work. Obviously, Max Holloway, Sean Woodson, Andrea Lee, all hurt people with body work. So body work and elbows, to me, seeing techniques that we don't always see in MMA, to me, that was stood out the most tonight. So that is my winner. Devo says that rules, as a cop, I should know that rules shouldn't meant to be broken. All right, there you go. Fair enough, Devo. You got me on that. So there's the bulls. Let's go to the grade. What is your grade for this card, Ben?
I'm going to give it an A. Like, the stakes weren't as high, obviously, as the last couple of weeks, but to the extent that it could, the card absolutely delivered. Just explosive finishes, some eye-opening stuff, learned a few lessons about people. I went 4 for 11 on this card. One of my most miserable picking performances of the year. I blame Liana Jojua. Even though she's only one of the 7 fights I got wrong, I blame her for my whole night. So, give it an A.
Yeah, I didn't do much better. I went 6 and 5. Luckily, I did terrible in the prelims. I did much better on the main card. I'm also going to give an A. As you said, when you set a record for most, or tie a record for most knockouts in a UFC with 9 finishes, and then you had an absolute war in the main event. The only reason why I didn't give it an A+ is exactly what you were saying. I need ranked fighters. I need more storylines built. Like if we had some kind of storyline, if Yair wins, maybe I'm going A+ because then we have a big upset. We have a new face fighting for the title. Something different. So that's why I didn't give it an A+, but still really good. That's 3. And I don't remember what happened before the Glover to Shirt card, but that's 3 weeks in a row where I think we gave A's. Mm-hmm. So really good week for the UFC. Tougher question because the chat was going hard all night. Who's your listener of the night? There was a good one tonight.
Man, like Mbaye is the Max Holloway of the Sherdog post-fight chat. Like she is just like upping her own strike total records each time, but good content as well. Like kind of got some strongly held, opinions and lays the smackdown on us. There's clearly some things she disagrees with us about, which I'm here for it. As long as everybody's respectful, I'm here for people. Tell me when I'm wrong, especially when I show up here, hat in hand, having gone 4-7 on the night, and you're like, why do I even listen to this guy?
That's right.
So I am going to give it to Mbe. You know, she got the Rookie of the Year or Rookie of the Week last week. I'm just going to flat out.
No, I gave her I gave it to her. I gave her as my listening last week. I didn't even give Rookie. I didn't know. Just straight was the best last week.
I also like Mary Chang's output this time.
She's always great.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of the usuals. They're always great. Mabe, Mary Chang, Devo goes fishing. Obviously, Bass. I almost gave it to Bass because volume, but like Bass, he's, it is what it is. Like he's always going to be great. So I'm going to go with the guy usual, but to me, he had a lot of comedy moments. I should deduct him for showing up late, but he showed up late and came on strong. I'm going to go with Josh Lazar. He's my pick. He made me laugh out loud a couple times, like actually laugh out loud. So anyways, the biggest thing about the chat is they talk through the whole show. They're very, very respectful. No one talks shit to each other. No one says, oh, you thought this guy's won. You're an idiot. You're a noob. You're any of that. So they're all great. So they're all MVPs. So there you have it, guys. We'll be back next week. What are we recapping next? Is it Misha Tate?
Forget that. It is Michael Chiesa versus Sean Brady. It is Adrian Yanez versus Davey Grant. That card is smoking, and the main event's okay.
And that's right. Misha Tate versus Katelyn Vieira. We're actually going to be previewing it this week. I don't know why I forgot. I've already been doing tape study for it. I mix up the cards sometimes because I almost after we make our picks during the week, it's almost like those fights happened, and like the way I picked it, that's actually how it happened. I go, oh wait, no, that's actually that person didn't lose yet. But guys, this is what we do every week. If you're new to this, please come back next week. We'll do it right after the main event ends next week, guys. If you like this, please like this. We need you guys to continue to comment, even comment afterwards. Subscribe to the entire Sherdog YouTube page. Hit that notification so if we ever go live with anything, you get notified. Also, check out other people's content, not just me and Ben. We got interviews. We got all kinds of stuff, so make sure you check out them. And thank you guys so much. Tell a friend how much fun you have watching the recap. And not just, I shouldn't say watching, interacting in the recap. He's Ben. I'm Keith. See you next time, guys.